Welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Today, we are diving into the book Extreme Ownership. Now, I know book club sounds kind of cozy, right? But trust me, the principles in this book weren't dreamed up in a comfortable boardroom. They were forged in the absolute crucible of combat.
I want you to just picture this for a second. This is the world that gave us these ideas. Not some corporate retreat, but the streets of Ramadi, Iraq, one of the absolute deadliest battlefields of the entire Iraq War. The authors, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, they were the Navy SEAL commanders who had to make this stuff work. Because if they didn't, people on their team, well, they wouldn't come home.
So out of all that chaos, all that pressure, they boiled their entire philosophy down to one single, really brutal idea.
And this is it. This is the whole game. Extreme ownership. It's this simple, but incredibly hard. Belief that as a leader, you are responsible for it all. And I mean everything. Not just the stuff you directly control, but everything that affects your mission. So if your team fails, that's on you. If a plan goes sideways, also on you. There are no excuses, no passing the buck. It all stops with you.
I mean, look at that. It's so simple. There's no fine print here. It's not, the leader is responsible unless, nope, it's just this. So the big question is, how do you even begin to live up to that kind of standard? Well, the book argues that it all starts internally. Before you can ever lead anyone else, you have to win the war with yourself first.
The authors actually call this winning the war within, and it's really a battle against your own worst instincts. It all starts with two foundational principles. First, and this one is maybe the most important, you have got to check your ego at the door. Your ego is that voice that stops you from listening to good advice. It prevents you from admitting you were wrong. It keeps you from seeing a better idea just because it came from someone more junior. In business or in battle, it doesn't matter. When your ego's in charge, the mission always comes second, and a real leader just can't afford that. And second, you have to believe. You have to absolutely 100% believe in the mission. Think about it. If you, the leader, don't even get the why behind what you're doing, how are you ever going to convince your team to go all in? It is your job to ask questions all the way up the chain of command until you genuinely buy in. But, a winning mindset, that's only half the battle. Once you believe, you've got to act.
And that brings us to what the authors call the laws of combat. And these aren't just some abstract theories, okay? These are practical, battle-tested tactics for actually getting things done when the stakes are as high as they get.
Under pressure, complexity is your worst enemy. It just creates confusion and total chaos. So your plans, your communication, your goals, everything has to be kept simple. So simple that anybody on your team can understand it and explain it back to you. I mean, think about a crisis at work. Is a 50-page PowerPoint deck going to help, or is one single clear objective? If they can't repeat it back to you, your plan is just too complex. Period.
Okay, this one is huge because it applies to our everyday chaos, right? When you're facing like 5 different fires at once, at work, at home, wherever, it's so easy to get completely overwhelmed. The key is to detach yourself from the emotion, identify the single biggest problem that needs solving right now, and then pour all of your energy into that one thing. You get that fire out, then you calmly move to the next. Prioritize, and then execute.
Look, you can't be everywhere at once. It's impossible. And micromanagement, it just kills speed and it crushes people's initiative. So the crucial thing here is this. You have to empower your junior leaders. Give them a super clear understanding of the mission's goal, what the book calls commander's intent, and then you have to trust them to make decisions on the ground to get it done. Now, all of this sounds pretty good in theory, doesn't it? But does it actually work in the real world? Well, Jocko and Leif share one of the most powerful stories from SEAL training that proves their entire point. It's called the boat crew test. So during the legendary, brutal Hell Week of training, you had these two teams. On one hand, you've got Boat Crew 6. They were just crushing it, winning every single race, led by this confident, high-performing leader. And then you had Boat Crew 2. Always last, always covered in mud, and their leader was completely defeated, constantly blaming his team for everything.
So the instructors, they decide to run a little experiment. They didn't swap any other guys paddling. The same tired, cold, miserable dudes stayed right in their boats. They only swapped one single person, the leader. So, what do you think happened?
The result was immediate and honestly staggering. On the very next race, Boat Crew 2, the bad crew, with their new confident leader, they didn't just get a little better, they won. They beat everyone. And Boat Crew 6, the good crew, now with the defeated leader, they came in next to last. The only thing that changed was the leadership.
And this brings us right to the book's most famous, most powerful, and most controversial conclusion. Leadership is the single most important factor in whether a team succeeds or fails. It's not about having the most talent or the best resources. It's about the standard the leader sets and, more importantly, enforces. So, after all the intense combat stories and the tactical principles, the book does something really cool. It turns the focus directly on you, with what I like to call the mirror test.
This right here is the ultimate takeaway. I want you to think about a project at work that's struggling, or a goal in your personal life, maybe even a dynamic in your family. What is that one thing you're blaming on somebody else, on external factors? Now, just ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped all the blaming and just took total, complete, extreme ownership of the outcome? That is the challenge of this book.
That's really the core of extreme ownership. To stop pointing fingers out at the world and to start looking in the mirror. It is a tough standard to live by, but as the book shows again and again, it's the one that actually leads to victory. Thanks for joining us today, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.